Great. So I'm talking to Gaurav Chopra, who we recently saw in Rana Naidu, but he has a legacy of other things that we'll talk about right now. So welcome to this conversation. And I'm in Dubai, and you are in Mumbai right now. Are you in Mumbai? Is this
Yes, I am. Technology is in the mud.
okay. So tell me, I want to talk to you about several things. But of course, a lot of it is the current, topic about the series that has been quite accepted and widely acclaimed. Tell me, how did you get the role, and how did you audition for it? And tell me the process. That'll be nice to start.
Um, I will have to mention that about I was feeling this for a very long time. That okay, I don't want to get into a big lecture about this, but in my humble understanding, what happens is that there are very few actors who can um, give you a performance that is in the tonality of the platform.
Hmm. Hmm.
As in, they can variate their performance depending on where they're acting.
Hmm.
And I had discovered this when I used to do theater, which was which has been pretty much all my life.
Right.
So most of the times when I would be doing TV and was called like a big TV star, I was doing some small theater production on the side just for kicks,
Yeah.
just for just to sort of recharge my battery. And
And keeping the
I
craft.
would go with and I would go to like a different venue with the same play and realize that today I was different.
Okay.
Uh, and that would come from the energy of the audience.
Mm-hmm.
And sort of, I think I, at some point of time, amalgamated that learning into the craft where if I was to do a show on Star Plus at a particular time slot, I would try and understand what the variation is, what the tonality is. If I'm speaking in English, how much should it be?
Mm-hmm.
What should the accent be? Even if I am foreign returned in the story, but I am on a very massy middle class kind of time bracket, then the English alienates, so on and so forth. Television, in its vastness in India, for an actor, is a humbling learning experience where you are, if you want to learn, that is that you can't be using your taste and your intelligence for the part
Absolutely. Mm.
because you are not the audience. I mean, you're trying to elevate, you're trying to enhance, but you are not the audience. So the tonality has to be as per the audience. So coming back to the question, I was becoming very aware and conscious that the fact that I'm known as a TV star of sorts, and I'm trying to give a performance which is um, appropriate on those channels for that kind of audience. A lot of people within the industry are perceiving me as somebody who can do just that.
Right.
And then there was this conscious decision to sort of say, okay, I got inspired by all the women breaking so many glass ceilings. I said, I should do that too.
Mm.
And The conscious decision is a difficult one because you have to let go of a lot of work. Um, this was an emotionally tough time. So to let go of the work and to let go of all of that money to pursue something creatively was tougher than it would have been otherwise.
Mhm.
Um, but I had taken that call, and this is what it was. And in the midst of this, these three roles were said yes to. There was Bachchan Pandey, where I was playing the antagonist opposite Akshay. Um, then I was cast by Mukesh Chabra. It was fantastic. The role got cut, so we don't really talk about it much because the audience never got to see what we did. But after that was Prince Reddy, Rana Naidu, and then the next one, which is going to be the sequel to Gadar. These three roles are so different from each other that even the DNA is different.
Mm.
They're different people.
Right.
They can't look the same. They can't talk the same. They can't even sound the same. So um, this was like a conscious effort. And when Rana Naidu was offered, I clearly understood that in this process of mine, what I want to do, Prince Reddy can be like a great vehicle to establish that fact because within one role there is so much variation to do,
Right.
so many looks to give and present.
right.
एंड ऑल्सो जैसे हिंदी में कहा जाता है, जैसे गाने का सुर होता है वैसे डायलॉग का भी सुर होता है. तो एक ही रोल में बहुत सारे सुर यूज करने का और सुनाने का मौका था ऑडियंस को. सो ऑफ कोर्स आई जंप्ड एट इट. वी हैड एन ऑडिशन, दे लव्ड इट, एंड आई वाज ऑन बोर्ड.
Also, the fact that आप सुर की बात कर रहे हो, you're also been the voice of several actors, and you're a voice artist as well. So tell me about that. We spoke about tonality and how you try to also sound different with each character. How important is sound? Do we take that in perspective at all? You as an actor would do it because it's your craft, but do people? How do people get it? It's a great
Um,
point to also
like for
tell the audience that this is a lot of work and tonality is an important part of a character building.
No, yes, yes, it is. And let's look eye to eye. Considering we're having a good chat. The whole point really is that there is feeling and emotion behind a performance,
Right.
and there are some technical aspects. There is the craft. The craft has some tools that you use. A carpenter has his tools, and actor has his tools. And for me, I am old school. Uh, मैं दिलीप साहब मालन ब्रांडो स्कूल का हूँ. सो मतलब फॉर मी लैंग्वेज,
Right.
उस लैंग्वेज का सही तलफुज,
Right.
या एक्सेंट या टोनालिटी, इंटोनेशन, आपके आपके बाल, आपकी चाल ढाल, आपका उठना बैठना, आपके कपड़े, आपके कपड़ों का भी फर्क होता है. जैकेट तो कैसी जैकेट,
Hmm.
जैकेट तो कैसी फिट.
Hmm.
जस्ट बिकॉज मैंने एक शादी पर टक्सीडो पहना है, एक बिजनेस टाइकून का टक्सीडो कैसा होगा
Hmm.
और एक आम आदमी का टक्सीडो कैसा होगा.
Right.
बहुत बहुत फर्क होता है अगर आप उस बारीकी में जाएं.
Hmm.
और किसी को ये बहुत कम्बरसम लग सकता है. सम पीपल माइट से दिस इज कम्प्लीटली अननेसेसरी,
Hmm.
बट आई एंजॉय दैट. फॉर
Finesse,
मी दिस इज द पार्ट ऑफ व्हाट आई डू.
and it's the finesse in it, which is why it is different, right? The small.
I mean, and even then, uh, uh, a lot of people who would appreciate you for the work that you were doing uh, thought that's all that you could do.
Right.
And a lot of other people who were not even watching that work, because we live in an industry and a world where we live in our own circles. So we watch what we watch and we meet who we meet. And that's our world.
Right.
uh, which is why the Facebooks of the world then go meet prime ministers of the country, because they cater to what you watch on
Right.
your feed
Right.
and then brainwash you. So but we live in our own sort of worlds, and for me to then migrate from one world to another world, I use these tools. Um I want to sound different. And for example, I'm the voice for Thor, like you said. Every time a Thor film comes to India, I'm the Indian voice. But I've sort of made a conscious choice to not take up the other Chris Hemsworth parts when they're offered to me,
Right.
because I'd prefer to be Thor's voice and not Chris's voice.
Yeah.
Um, when I do the Thor versions, I do it the way I would do it as an actor.
Right.
Uh, and it's funny that you would see me jumping inside the studio and sometimes throwing the hammer, and sometimes even doing romantic scenes with imaginary people.
Right.
Because for me, I'm enacting out the whole part.
Yes.
So it's not just the Indian voice; it's an Indian version of the performance.
And it has to
Um,
connect also. There is so much going on
co-
there. It's not just about the voice.
correct,
Not alien.
correct, and I don't know whether other people see it like that. I see it as a huge responsibility, because I feel like the Indian culture should be represented correctly. Funny or entertaining होने के लिए stupid नहीं होना चाहिए. The sensibility of what has been said, because I've been reading those comics since I was a kid. That अच्छा अगर किसी particular attitude में कुछ कहा गया, I don't want to dilute that just for us to make an entertaining moment right now.
Right.
Um, and so I get into debates and arguments sometimes, but nahi, nahi, we should be saying this or we should be saying this.
Right.
But I take that as seriously as any other job. So for me, the off and on voice jobs that I do are great sort of learning experiences, because it forces you to break your sur and say it as per the other person's face. So
Right.
आपका खुद का फिर as an actor वो सुर जो as a habit set हो गया है, you're forced to change. Um, and that's great because that habit is what binds us without us knowing. People clap, people give you awards, uh, girls send you good messages that sound so nice to read, but um, you don't even realize you become a puppet of your own style,
Yeah.
and this is how people mimic us
Yes.
because वो सुर बैठ जाता है, वो मीटर बैठ जाता है, and for me then this voicing thing becomes like a great experience or exercise to keep breaking that sur every once in a while.
Are you also then very conscious? Do you listen to people's voices also consciously because you don't want to repeat a voice that you have used? So it's like get ups. People look at, there are people like Gulshan Groverji, I remember, has a panel of people who actually click pictures of interesting people. And then his look is designed by, something unique that he's seen. So do you do the same with voices, is what I'm trying to
I
tell?
do that. I do that. Like I've been listening to your voice, and I can tell you sing. But do you?
I do.
Yeah. Okay. See, I was right. But the whole point really is that when we hear somebody, like when you hear somebody on the phone, do we not get a visual of how the person is?
A certain visual, yes.
Yeah, yeah. And you might not have seen the person. Sometimes somebody is calling you from a call center, customer care service,
Right.
and you feel this person must look like this.
Ah, yeah.
Uh, and voice has that magic. And so if you change it ever so finely, you can't change your voice. That is the voice you're blessed with, but
Right.
you can modulate it and you can change it. So for Bachchan Pandey, I sort of suggested to the director that उसको राजस्थानी accent देते हैं.
अच्छा.
Um, and Rajasthani accent के साथ then I made him sound um, there was so much gravity to him
Hmm.
in his voice, but so much madness to him in his actions.
It had to
It
mix.
almost didn't it almost didn't go together. But I
Right.
wanted that disparity with him.
Hmm.
I wanted him to परदेसी के लिए आया है.
Hmm.
That's how he spoke.
Hmm.
But at one point of time, I remember that it became like a little joke on the set where everybody picked up this little thing and started saying to each other, saying, "Thare maskana hai." So everybody was saying that to everybody because it was kind of catchy. But the point is to sort of give it that little flavor.
Hmm.
Of course, Prince
What
Reddy
about
is
Hyderabadi?
the biggest.
How did you pick up on the Hyderabadi lehza?
Um, um, there was a sort of an assistant on the set who was helping Venkatesh sir with
Uh,
his Hindi and Hyderabadi because, of course, this was like a huge challenge for him.
yes.
A full-fledged series with so many lines and so many scenes, and the kind of words that he hasn't ever said before.
Yes.
Uh, uh, and so there was that guy, and I would call him to my van before going, and I would say, "मैं यहाँ थोड़ी हैदराबादी डालना चाहता हूँ."
Ah,
But I want to say it in the same way जो शो में कही जा रही है because हम ये दिखा रहे हैं कि ये लोग आपस में एक दूसरे को जानते थे.
hmm.
So 15 साल पहले when you see a prince in a flashback sequence, he's livelier, he's happier, he's peppier.
Yeah.
Um, he's more friendlier.
Yeah.
There's, so when he's with Naga, he says, "तू जा यार,
Hmm.
अरे तू पागल है यार."
Hmm.
मतलब it's more
Yeah.
easy.
Yeah.
And उसके बीच में मेरे को मालूम है यारों वो the effect of the accent then has to be easy and more casual.
Hmm.
So I would take his help, and he was gracious enough and kind enough to help me with those little improvisations. And then we kept those, and then everybody else was gracious enough to retain that in the edit. So yeah, then you get to hear it.
Amazing. This is an entire new world in itself. I think it's not paid too much attention to from outside, but I think it's such an important and integral part of even watching. So, any memorable?
Of course, I might, if I may just add, after this, for Gadar, for example,
Yes.
where I play uh, an army officer, uh, and a very patriotic one at that. The tonality is again very different.
Right.
Um, Not only is the voice different, he goes from the. But I've also tried to keep it for the commercial
Yeah.
Indian mass
Mhm.
entertainment
Mhm.
zone. So it's in that sur. It's in that sur of बड़ा डायलॉग फिल्मी डायलॉग और आप जब वो फिल्मी डायलॉग बोल रहे हैं तो फिल्मी डायलॉग बोल रहे हैं द मोमेंट आप एक सेंसिटिव बात बोल रहे हैं तो आप रियल रख रहे हैं आई kept it like that. Let's see how people like.
Interesting. That sounds interesting. And tell me a little more about your role as army officer. How have you put yourself differently in it?
Okay, so I don't think we should talk too much about the film. I'll just answer your question.
Yeah.
But the film is set in 1971, uh, and the outfits, the uniforms, the accessories, everything is bang on. So it's exactly what was being used. So the uniform that you see me wearing is a 1971
Oh.
version of the uniform, including the fabric and the fit.
Uh-huh.
And when I first wore it, I looked too lanky in it, too lean in it, and I thought to myself, saying, "Samne Sunny sir hai." you know. Uh, So, or this is Gadar and Tara Singh, na? This is his universe.
Right.
Is universe के सुपर हीरो वो है.
Ji.
So, you had to. So I Gadar is the role for which पराठे खाए गए और पेड़ों से लटका गया और फ्री स्टाइल स्क्वाट्स किए गए और एक ओवरऑल वेट पुट ऑन किया गया चेहरे पे बॉडी पे एक ओवरऑल जस्ट टू लुक
Right.
हेल्दी जस्ट टू लुक लाइक अ मैन just
Right.
look like a man and a strong man from 1970s and not the kind of bodies that we see now. If you look at those pictures then you'll understand what I'm saying.
Yes.
They're a lot more boxy.
Yeah.
They're not so.
You should look strong.
Yeah, also it's a little more masculine in a classic sense.
Right.
So the whole look, the whole mustache, the whole everything that is it hasn't been decided to make me look good. It has been decided to make the character look correct.
Right.
Um, and this is part of this whole new phase where I'm just being true to the character and actually not worrying about anything else.
Okay. Also, do you say no more than you say yes to those?
I don't want to sound arrogant, but that's true. Though I must confess, an actor only gets to do what he's offered.
Yeah.
Um, so to all the people listening through you, um, if you see an actor and you judge his performance or her performance, keep in mind that whatever that you're seeing is this is what was offered to him or her.
Mm.
If something else was offered, maybe this actor would seem different, or better, or worse. Um, and This conscious decision of trying to showcase these other aspects that I've been aware that I can deliver, but I've not got a chance to. Then it was a little pertinent that in this phase that I would keep the other things a little away, not in terms of a medium that I say no to, but in terms of the roles that I say no to. So I didn't want to do any of the work that people normally associate me with.
Right.
Uh, in a way, this is Gaurav version 2.0,
Mm.
and people should only see the new version. And then, of course, we'll do all kinds of things on all kinds of mediums, whatever is offered to us. But in this phase, I just wanted to surprise everybody watching.
Right. Also, tell me about Dancing with the Stars. Do you enjoy dancing at all?
I love dancing. Dancing is my fitness mantra. Um, I feel like you don't need to work out so much if you dance regularly.
Mhm.
Uh, in fact, personally, my body is in its best shape when I go to the gym twice or thrice a week, but I dance every day.
Mm.
Um, it gets into great shape.
Also
So for
happy.
me,
There's happiness.
G,
There's also happiness. Dance is also an expression.
yes, correct. It's an expression. And growing up in India, where uh, dancing and singing is as much a part of performance in our films.
Yes.
And if you look at the biggest superstars, one of the key aspects is that they're so good in their songs.
Yes.
You cannot be a superstar in this country and win over people's hearts if you're not good with that aspect. You'll be considered a good actor, but you would never be the commercial success that the big superstars become. The
Right.
big superstars become great successes because they perform well in the songs. And I don't necessarily mean dancing, they just perform in the song.
Right.
And you like to watch them in the song and dance. And that's how it is. So for me, growing up in that environment, I think that I enjoy it. I take it as part of performance. I emote, and it's happy expression mostly.
Mhm.
And I think that it's great. I enjoyed Dancing with the Stars. Was a bit of a surprise. I am still the only Indian ever to have been featured in it as a celebrity contestant. So it was a privilege to sort of do that for the first time. But it's different there, right? We have Jhalak Dikhla Ja, which is the Indian version,
Mhm.
where we dance mostly on film songs.
Right.
There, they do not have films that have songs. So there, in Europe, when you do Dancing with the Stars, you would dance on either a pop, rock, uh,
Yeah.
classic number, but the dance forms are there's no filmy version of a dance form.
Right.
So in India, there is a Kathak and there is a filmy version of Kathak.
Right.
Uh, so if some lady was to perform an Imrao Jan song,
Yeah.
it would be close to what Rekha ji did, or what your Hindi filmy
Yeah.
version of Kathak is.
Yeah.
Uh, but udhar वैसा नहीं था. So if you were to do a tango or a double step or whatever that it would be the classic accurate version of the dance form, which then became such a task because I would have to learn a classic dance form, that to a Western one, in like 2, 3 days, 4 days, for
Mhm.
me to perform in a week.
Okay.
Uh, so hugely enriching,
Mhm.
but very, very scary. I don't know how I survived 7, 8 weeks.
Okay.
Uh, and I had to come back because there was an injury, otherwise or bhi ho jata.
Okay.
So uh, yeah, huge experience.
Any international projects that you're considering?
Um, there's something that we're discussing. There were a couple of calls after Rana Naidu straight away, which was a pleasant surprise. In the past, I've done a couple of big projects. There was Blood Diamond with Leonardo DiCaprio many years ago, and many people over the years have tried to tell me that it was a huge mistake for me to not pursue that.
Mhm.
Because this is when I was shooting for 17 days with Leonardo DiCaprio and Jennifer Connelly. Nobody from India was doing that. I mean, the Irfan Khans hadn't gone, the Priyanka Chopras of the world hadn't migrated yet. Um, but I was getting work here, and I thought that I didn't want to demarcate, um, or I didn't want to believe that I have an inferiority complex about Indian cinema or Indian work vis-a-vis international work, and then मैं ये सब छोड़ के वहां चला जाऊं to pursue for something. And I
Right.
thought अगर मुझे मौका मिलेगा तो मैं जाऊंगा.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know if I was correct or not. I've always been a little idealistic.
Okay.
But uh, now there are a couple of sort of projects that the conversations are happening for, and let's see, fingers crossed.
Okay. I cannot help but look at the portrait right behind you. There's a black and white. So tell me about it.
Gee, this is a little some fan had. I think I put this up on Instagram or somewhere, and I don't know. Uh, I'm assuming it's a she with all the flowers and the letters that I got with it.
Okay.
Um, got this printed, packed it with all the flowers, and then kept it underneath the building with the garden. I came back and there was this big thing,
Okay.
and I was like, I don't know, kya hai isme? And then I didn't know what to do with it. I'm not as narcissistic as this seems to be, but it's just to respect someone's
Love
feeling.
it.
I didn't want to just put it on the side somewhere. So
It's
this is
beautiful,
where it is.
quite visible. Quite, I can see it from here. So
No, thank you,
it's lovely
thank you.
speaking to you, and thank you very much for speaking to me. It's an absolute pleasure, and I got to learn a few more things about tonality and
Uh,
voice and all. Thank you very much for speaking to me.
thank you very much. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.